I'm Paul,
I'm Mark.
And I'm Mike.
and we've got issues.
And comics, specifically the Frazettaverse comics.
Well, as it turns out, yesterday was Frank Frazetta's birthday. He was born February 9th, 1928. So we thought we'd take a look at some of the Frazettaverse books. And Mark apparently has quite a few of them.
Yes, I've been buying them from the beginning. Opus Comics has been putting them out for a couple of years now. And what I thought we'd start with is basically a guide to the Frazettaverse, as they're calling it.
Yeah.
And so they're doing a whole series of comics based on many of his paintings.
Cool.
And so as you can see from the cover, we've got a little bit of course, Death Dealer, of course, some sci fantasy, and some science fiction from his paintings.
This is honestly the one that interests this one interests me the most. Because me and Mothman.
Yeah, we'll talk about Mothman. The Mothman comic is an interesting comic.
It's actually out.
Oh, it's out.
Mothman?
Yeah, it's almost
Okay.
done. Yeah.
All right.
So what they're going to do is introduce you to a little bit of each storyline. So we'll start with the Death Dealer, and so we're going to get. Yep,
We got demonetized within minutes.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to put some black lines on that.
I'll put a little smiley face emoji over it.
But I won't reveal too much about Death Dealer,
Yeah.
other than, I mean, clearly it's the character from the painting is in the comic,
Right.
and goes on a giant adventure.
So we're gonna look at this. This is like the preview.
This is a preview, right? This is a little bit of from issue 1.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, they got the famous pose there with him on the horse. And so, but yeah, what they've done is they're taken each painting and created a universe around it and a story for each of the characters in the painting. And so we get a whole. It's really interesting what they end up doing with Death Dealer, but we'll get to that.
Wasn't the Death Dealer paintings the inspiration for the Horned Helmet series?
I'm sure it was,
because that was a really good like sword and sorcery series back in the day. I'm pretty sure it was the Horned Helmet. Was like James Silk, I think, was the author.
Well, and part of the what's interesting about the way they've done the series is the helmet itself is the most important part.
Yeah.
Same thing with the now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he who wears the helm can become the Death Dealer. So it's interesting. That plays a lot into the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get him fighting a dragon. There's Norse, so they tie in some of the Norse pictures that he's done. So this realm that the Death Dealer's in, there's sorcerers, there's monsters, there's Norsemen, wizards, and so that way they can tie more of the paintings in to the series.
So is this Frank Thorne? Because Frank Thorne used to dress up as a wizard.
Maybe.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. So the Sea Witch, which is one of the paintings he did.
Yeah, made popular in recent times by the Wolf Mother album cover.
Right. Oh, and there's your first right, everybody.
What was the Death Dealer painting originally done? Because all his paintings were.
That is a good question.
That is a very good question.
Do you have Siri?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
I do not have Siri. I'm sorry, no Siri.
Sorry, no Siri.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure. Put it in the comments if you know.
Yeah. If anyone in the
should have done my research.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments what it was first designed for. Was it just something he painted because it was awesome, or did it have was it a part of a book series? What?
Right.
Whatever it is, it's iconic as hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's one of them that were introduced. Then we have Mothman.
Yay!
And so Mothman is more of a comedy. And so it's about the Mothman is an alien landing on Earth, and so it's sort of a comedy, which I thought was an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
So, we get the classic 1950s kids in the car.
By the way, who's the writer and artist for The Death Dealer series.
So Mitch Iverson
Okay.
and then Richard Pace does not all of the art.
Mm-hmm.
They have some fill-ins. So,
Oh,
but he
okay.
does a lot of the art.
Okay.
So not anyone I've. Mitch Iverson's name sounds familiar, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know anything else that he's done. So,
Okay.
but
I
yeah,
just want.
most of the creators are.
Yeah.
If you write, I didn't write. I myself didn't recognize anybody off the top
Right.
of my head.
Right. So and then we got who's Mothman's writer and artist?
We have the script is Tim Hedrick, and the penciler is Andrea Moody. Who that name sounds familiar as well. You should
Mm-hmm.
put it in
Yeah.
the comments again.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know what they've done because we're looking for stuff to read.
Right. So with Mothman again, this is another few pages from the very first issue, and so we get, as I was saying, we get the classic '50s
Yeah.
kids watch the aliens land.
Yeah. I honestly really like the art for this, like
Hmm.
a lot. The coloring goes a long way with it.
Yeah, yeah, it's got some nice shading here and the so and each one is its own setting. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got the Death Dealer has its own setting. This clearly takes place now because we got
Mm-hmm.
drone pictures in here. Um, and then we get rising out of the alien spacecraft is the Mothman, and
Mhm.
so
That's a great UFO.
hmm
To put this kind of spaceship in a modern setting is
Mhm.
just it's like in the Thing, the 1981 version
hmm
where it's like modern, but yet Wilford Brimley's down in the basement building a UFO that looks like that. It's just great.
yeah. So we get and then we get the classic Mothman
Mm,
pose.
nice.
And so it turns out to be a comedy. There's part of the story is why he's on Earth and what does
Mm-hmm.
he escape from and his people.
Hmm.
An interesting pregnancy twist in there. So it's just I think it's going to end up being about 5 or 6 issues.
Okay.
And so it's just a lot of these are just they take the painting and then they do a
Mm-hmm.
series of stories about them. So far, Death Dealer is the longest one.
So at the time of recording, is this still going on?
It's yes, it's almost done. It's
Hmm.
it's almost to the end. Death Dealer just finished up its first giant story arc. I'm not sure if there'll be a break now and they'll go on.
Mm-hmm.
So Death Dealers it came out in two large segments. There was one sort of storyline,
Mm-hmm.
and then it picked up from that one and did a giant epic storyline, and that one's
Oh,
just
okay.
finished. So
Did I miss the part about who produced this?
this was Opus Comics.
Opus
So
Comics.
we have Opus
Okay.
Comics,
Right.
and there was well, yeah, Opus. Yes. And then Dawn Attack again another painting. This was a 3 issue series. This one kind
Okay.
of came and went. I have not read it yet. This is one of the ones I haven't read,
Mm-hmm.
and so but yeah, they've been going since so Mothman came out in May. But it's sometimes it's every other month. It's
Mm-hmm.
not right in a row every month. So
Mm-hmm.
so Dawn Attack is one that I haven't looked at. So we're looking at Jody Hauser and Eric Campbell are writing it,
Okay.
and Diego Yapur is doing the art.
Okay.
And so again, they've picked different artists to fit the style of the painting, and so
Yeah.
this looks totally different than the last two that we've
Yeah.
looked at, which I
Yeah.
like about it. And so you're getting a variety of art and pictures. So, but this one,
This guy's pretty good at um emulating the style of the girl on the painting.
hmm
I like that.
and I like the coloring of this as well. The quality of the
Yeah.
colors,
Normally
shading.
I don't go in for a lot of heavy coloring, but it almost looks obviously it's Photoshop, but they do a pretty good job of emulating brushstrokes and that kind of thing.
hmm
So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. So we get just a series of her adventures.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I
Yeah.
like that.
And so you get a wraparound cover on the first one, which was
Hmm.
pretty cool. And they do. There's a lot of so be careful at your local store. Um, there are a lot of variant covers. So
Oh,
people who decide to do their own either own version of the Frazetta painting or they do the character from a different style. So I made sure at my local comic book shop to get all the Frazetta
right.
covers.
Like
What's the
that's
point? What's the point otherwise?
yeah. If you're okay, say you're like Jay Lee, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
and they call you up and they're like, "Hey, you want to do a cover for the Frazettaverse?" And we're like, "But why though?"
Right.
You know, who's gonna want my interpretation of these masterworks?
Right. But it
That's
looks good in the back. But you do get them all in the back of some of
oh,
the
okay.
issues.
All right.
So it was interesting to look at, some of the interpretations.
Yeah,
But definitely I made sure I, as much as I could, got
yeah.
the Frazetta
Yeah,
covers.
like we have the same local shop, and I
Yeah.
usually tell Patrick, I don't care. Whatever the first issue is the one I want.
Right.
But were I to get this, I would only want the Frazetta covers.
Correct. That's the way to go.
Unless maybe like Frank Cho was drawing the covers. Then maybe I
Mm-hmm.
get a Frank Cho variant
Right.
of a Frank Frazetta.
Yep. Yeah. So then we'll take a look at. I do have this issue here, this quarterly anthology, Tales of Science Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have this issue here. We'll take a look at it in full. Um,
I noticed, getting back to that, go
yeah.
ahead and pick
Yeah.
it back up.
Sure.
We have April of 2023, but a lot of this is 2020.
Still running.
It's
Yeah.
still
Still
going
running.
on.
Yep. Still
Okay,
going on. Right.
that's good. That's good because there's always the worry that like it comes and goes and nobody, and it's very limited run and that's it. Nobody ever hears anything more about it. But the fact that this has been going on for over, I mean, well, almost a year now
Mm-hmm.
is pretty positive.
I was worried with it as well. I thought it might go the way of, they did Titan Comics a couple years ago.
Hmm.
We were talking, you and I, about the Hammer. They took the Hammer movies
Yeah, yeah,
and did sequel comics, and
yeah,
it was fantastic.
yeah,
It was great,
yeah.
but clearly it didn't make enough money for them,
Right.
so they discontinued it. And so I don't track sales normally,
Yeah,
so I don't know how well this is doing. I know it sells out each week at the local store.
yeah.
Um, and he buys 5 or 6 copies of each or
Right.
more.
Okay.
So, but again, yeah, it's one of those things. It just depends, I suppose. But this seems to be the main thing Opus is doing.
Yeah.
So hopefully, they'll continue.
Well, getting back to the Hammer stuff for a second, my personal favorite was the Captain Kronos series.
That was the best one.
If okay, well that's good to know. If you would like to see the Captain Kronos story, let us know. My favorite part about that was it was basically Tom Mandrake doing his best Gene Colan impression.
Hmm.
It's so if you liked like Tomb of Dracula, look for the Captain Kronos series. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's Tom Mandrake and maybe Palmer, I think, who passed away not that long ago. But it's perfection.
Those were great, because they were sequels to the movies, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
in there they also gave you sort of a history of each Hammer movie,
yeah,
and so you got a lot of information. And they're doing that now. There's also a new Universal Monster series
yeah,
out. They just finished the 4-issue Dracula adaptation, but they are adapting the Universal movies, so you're not going to get Bram Stoker's
yeah.
Dracula. You're going to get
You're
a
getting
interpretation of
Universal's
the movie.
Dracula.
And they're doing the return of Creature of the Black Lagoon
Mm.
next. And so maybe we could, if you're interested, we could talk about those as
Yeah,
well.
that would be great.
Yeah.
One more thing about the
Mhm.
Captain Kronos, I I was really a little bit disappointed that my only critique of that series was there was no cameo by the blind lady in the tavern. I, that movie was set up to be the launch of a franchise, and I'm sure the blind lady would have been explained later on in one of the movies.
Mhm.
But I was kind of hoping there was some kind of allusion to her in the series. But other than that, that series is perfection.
Yeah, those were great. I
Yeah.
wish they would bring those back.
Yeah.
So that's, and then you get sort of another colorized version of it.
Nice.
And so if we look at, I'll just well, here, I'll tell you what.
Where did we get the Frazettaverse font?
I don't. That's a good. It's interesting. It's a little Conan-esque.
I'm sure it's copyrighted up the wazoo.
Right.
But, so what are we
So
looking
now we're looking at the Tales of Science Fantasy, the
Okay.
anthology. So this is the anthology series. It's one a quarter, and
These are self-contained, done in one.
self-contained, done in ones. Right. So each issue covers one of the paintings. So
Okay.
we get, and then on the back
I don't think I've
blow
ever
it up.
seen that painting before. That kind of floors me a little bit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
yeah, it's apparently a famous one. I don't know. I didn't recognize it off the top of my head either, but
Now, Mike, you've been to the Frazetta Museum, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it was interesting. It was when I was in art school, and
Mm-hmm.
we took a trip there. We met Frazetta,
oh wow.
Yeah.
and his, I believe his daughter was there too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in fact, a lot of the paintings of women looked a lot like his daughter.
Yeah. Same. Larry Elmo was the same way. A lot of the girls in his paintings are his
Right.
daughter and her friend.
The cool thing about it is that we saw a lot of the thumbnails that he did, like color,
Yeah.
like roughs
Yeah.
for the paintings, and they just looked like little tiny versions of some of the famous paintings. That was really neat.
Hmm.
Um, I don't remember what all paintings were there, but I used to have all the books, so I've seen all the paintings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh,
Where's the Frazetta Museum at?
it's in Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what town.
Okay.
Some little college town or something we went to.
If anybody watching knows, let us know in the comments because Mike can't remember because it was a
Yeah,
long time
Lifetime
ago
ago.
when he was in
right.
art school.
And
It's
well,
really-
and speaking of his daughter, I believe, yeah, I believe his daughter has a lot to do with these series being launched.
Oh, that would be good.
And so,
Yeah.
I can't. I should have tried to look it up before we did this tonight, but
Mm.
I think she's actually going to help write one of them.
Oh,
And so I believe she's the driving force behind this.
Okay.
Sort of like the family members of Bruce Lee. There was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was sort of they were creating a Bruce Lee verse in a comic series. Unfortunately, it only was I think it was only a handful of issues that made it,
Mm.
and that was his daughter and family driving that. And so I believe it's the same here.
I want Bruce Lee versus the Death Dealer. And they go on this epic quest.
Right.
It starts out with a fight between the two of them, and then there's this epic quest, and in the end, it ends with the two of them charging each other.
To figure out who's the best
yes,
one. Yes.
freeze frame at
Yes.
the end.
how about Bruce Lee versus Christopher Lee? That's,
I think Christopher Lee would win.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to teach George Lucas how it looks when someone kills someone.
Yeah.
He did the Star Wars movies. So
Was it George Lucas or was it Peter Jackson?
I can't. No, it might have been Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
It might have been Peter Jackson.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
So one more thing that makes Christopher Lee a legend.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the Hammerverse as well. So,
Yes, yeah.
So here we get. So a bit on the nose with the title Alien Crucifixion. so a bit on the nose. Miguel Ruiz is the artist who I know has done other things
Mhm.
before. And so they're going to take, and there we are.
Sarah
She
Frazetta.
does the edits. Sarah Frazetta. Yes, I was right.
All right. Then.
Yep. So she is editor, but I believe she's also going to be a writer
Okay.
soon. So for this one, we start with the actual painting itself as the launch, and so we've got an alien. It kind of reminds me of the Goku from
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
Right.
Yeah.
Goku meets Den.
Yeah. And so I don't want to show the whole storyline,
Yeah.
but so they just use that as a launching point
Mm-hmm.
and create a whole world around it. And so I thought the art I really like the art for this.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah. And so, and just a lot of, I like the effects here.
Yeah.
And so, and the shadow. And again, the coloring is just, the quality of these comics is great.
Yeah.
And so you're paying, $4.99. I mean, that's less than a Marvel book right now.
Yeah, it's not the same, but still, that's a pretty thick, heavy book. It's
Right.
got a lot of pages to
Yep.
it. The art's really nice. You folks watching this can't really appreciate. My camera doesn't quite pick up how well colored this book
Mhm.
is and how vivid it is, but it's very nice.
Yeah, it's very well made. And so we get a whole series of stories about how this four-armed alien ended up getting crucified.
Ah,
And so, but I don't want to go too far into and reveal the plot, but so that gets a whole issue in and of itself. And then in the back, you'll get the variant covers. So here's where you get you still get the Frazetta, and you get your own to draw. Yes, you get your own to draw.
Imagine, because Mike, you're an artist. I'm an artist, and you're at a show, and somebody wants you to like do a cover for a Frazetta book.
Yeah.
Dude,
Right. That's pretty cool.
Stick man.
Yeah, stick man.
No, that's that.
Oh,
There you go.
Right.
What you do is you take a book like you get the where is it? It's a good pod right here. So okay, so you get the sketch cover edition for the Frank Frazettaverse. All right, and then you get Matt Fazell.
Yeah. Right.
The Matt Fazell version.
I may have to do that. Right for the space this year and there. I'm gonna have Matt Fazell do a Frank Frazetta cover.
Yeah, it's for this. I mean, this is nice. I mean, it's not. He's clearly not trying to reproduce the paintings, but he's taking a cover from the story.
Yeah,
and so, and then we get a Dave Dorman painting here.
Dorman was one of the first artists that actually started to buy books because he did the cover.
He's a super nice guy. I met him at a WizardCon. 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, he was a super nice guy.
Yeah, I met him too. And I remember I was naming off like all these obscure books that he did covers for. Like one was called The Bat. It's like a pulp magazine type hero.
It's just interesting to me because it celebrates the art of Frazetta, but you're getting these stories. So and again, his daughter is clearly picking some really talented writers and artists to capture this. And so, the next quarterly we're going to get, a story about this painting. And so that's kind of how the quarterly stories work. And then interestingly, they're all doing that. They're all taking a cover and turning it into a story. But what I thought was amazing about Death Dealer, and this is issues. Let me see if I can get.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's a great one. So I had that on like People That Time Forgot or something.
Right.
Reprint.
Well, you've got these two disparate covers.
Yeah.
That may not have anything to do with each other, but somehow the Iverson, who's been writing the most of it, is able to make the plot totally make sense and incorporate all of these events in it.
Yeah.
And so, and I didn't really catch on till about issue 10. I'm like, well, I get it. They're big, but the entire storyline, he is able to put together 20 different Frazetta paintings into one logical storyline. So the Sea Witch becomes a main character in the Death Dealer. And so they take her from her painting, but then include her in the group in the storyline. And so it's just interesting. And I think my favorite one, I won't say too much about the plot, but so this one, for a minute, I thought it was a new storyline, but it's not. It's incorporated. This painting is incorporated into it. This character becomes one of the main characters and a turning point in the issues. And so even though it's about the Death Dealer as a character and as a creature, if you will, it's really includes every figure in the paintings.
That's a great.
Yeah, becomes important.
This doesn't even cover the size of the painting. This painting is amazing.
Well, and then even my favorite, and I won't say how. I think you should read the entire Death Dealer series. So the last issue ends with a bear on the cover. So by now I'm well aware of what they're doing in the comic. And I'm like, how the hell are they going to incorporate? Why is there a bear involved in this long-running epic storyline about the world ending and wizards fighting and the Death Dealer? And I'll be damned if he doesn't incorporate a bear into the story. And in a really clever way. And that made me think about the rest, going back and looking at the rest of the covers. But what you get with these, as I've been saying, you get. And I'll open this one because this is one of my favorite issues.
What this kind of reminds me of while you're doing that is the era of DC Comics where like the editor would bring this whack cover into a writer and go, here,
Yep.
Write this.
Right.
It's like, but it's Hawkman and Hawkgirl fighting a Lion Man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, write it anyway.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what they're doing here. And that's, you get, so what is this one? It's Ride the Lightning. That's the
Nice.
storyline. And so, but you get demons, you get sorcerers, you get, here's the Sea Witch. She's in it. She's a main character. Here's the Norseman becomes a character in it.
Mhm.
And so it's just interesting. And then in the back of these, you get various covers.
Yeah.
So then you
Nice.
get, and so like this, I don't mind. I don't mind this as an interpretation. I wouldn't want it as the main cover that I buy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I like the interpretation.
Yeah.
And then of course I had to have the Frazetta cover.
Mhm.
And then this is an important part from this storyline, even and so that character that gets put in here,
Mhm.
and then you finally end. You get this one,
Ah, nice.
and so yeah, I just love what they're doing. It's very, as we said, very well made, interesting storyline. They're now going to do, I think, the regular Death Dealer comic either is starting a new storyline or it's taking a break, and now they're going to do a Death Dealer in the future. So sort of a Death Dealer
Yeah.
meets Judge Dredd meets. So there's, I in my head it's Death Dealer 2099, but I know that's terrible. But it's something like that. It's
That's
Death
awesome.
Dealer of the future. And so-
What's cool about this too is not everyone here, everyone present. We all play D&D,
Mhm.
and you and I were part of a group that has been going on for decades.
Mhm.
And back in the day, we played every Sunday, and like sometimes I wouldn't have. I was the what we called the forever DM till your brother came into the
Mhm.
fold, and it was like we needed a game. We needed a game. I would just go to my bookshelf. I would pull down a Frazetta book, look at the cover, and like 5 minutes later, I would have a game based on that cover.
Mhm.
And that's to me, that's kind of a fun thing about this is, stories based on the cover. It might just be a flash of a scene. It might be the character, but it's the cover inspires. Like you said, you got a bear on the goddamn cover.
Yeah, and they figure out a way to tie it in, and not in a where you really had to stretch things.
Yeah,
It makes total sense to the story, and so I just thought that was clever. And again, it took me 10 issues for me to go, wait a minute, they've made this make sense every single issue, and it just the story flows. That's what it didn't interrupt the flow of the story to suddenly have the Sea Witch pop up,
Right.
or the barbarian holding the sword with lightning. It makes total logical sense within the world and the storyline,
Right.
which is amazing what they've done. Now, I hope even if they ever run out of paintings, that they just continue these stories anyway. I'd be happy with that. But so you get a lot of different interpretations.
Mm-hmm.
I am a giant Conan fan, so
Oh, yeah.
so it does sort of speak
Yeah.
to that style of fantasy.
Yeah.
But the fact that we're getting Mothman and things like that, so I wish them a lot of luck. I hope they
Yeah.
continue
I don't
putting
know
stuff
what
out.
I don't know what Opus has done prior to this.
The name came with this with the Frazettaverse. I'd have to, I haven't seen what else they do, but um, this has been great. Opus has hit it out of the park for me with this.
I'm gonna have to look into this. I might have to wait for the trade for this because just the size of it. But this, yeah, this looks really interesting.
Yeah.
I remember when you first started talking about this, I remember thinking, nah, it's gonna come and go.
Right.
But
Or I thought it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
It's going to be,
Yeah.
a really terrible interpretation. It hasn't been.
Like when was it Danzig that wrote like a Prisoner of the Horned Helmet bullshit back in the 90s?
Yeah.
It was awful. So I didn't put a lot of hope into this, but this looks really good.
Yeah, it's so far hasn't disappointed, even despite the variety of creators involved. And so his daughter's doing a great job as editor, clearly, and hopefully as writer. So I hope, again, like I said, I hope it continues. It's we're kind of in a new renaissance of fantasy comics again. They've brought. I mean, Conan had a stint at Marvel, which had its ups and downs. Now,
have you seen the new Conan?
Oh, it's great.
Oh, it is amazing.
It's amazing.
The art is beautiful.
Yeah, and that's Titan Comics, I believe, puts that out.
Yeah.
And so Titan does a they own a lot of properties. They did a Macross story from the old Robotech, which was pretty interesting. They own the rights to Blade Runner,
Okay.
which has for me been up and down because unfortunately for Blade Runner, people keep repeating the same storyline.
Mm.
So am I a replicant? Am I not?
Mm.
And how can I survive? You know, if I am a replicant, and
Mhm.
that got so I stopped reading that series. But yeah, there's the Conan book out there. They have the Fire and Ice. Dynamite has Fire and Ice out right now as a comic,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is an actual prequel to the movie.
Yes.
So
It would be, if it turns out this is a trend that's working, it would be great if, like, DC Comics would go back and look at a lot of the fantasy books they had
mhm,
prior to the DC implosion back in the 70s, because there was a lot of wild books with amazing art
mhm,
that didn't survive the implosion. It's like,
right.
pay attention to the sales and maybe, relaunch some of that.
And even do it with my favorite style of the big two is do 5 issue miniseries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do something where people can buy it. It's not a big commitment. I think you'll get more sales that way. And then if people like it, they'll come back for another 5 issue miniseries next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And so that's with the quarterlies. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
It's keeping my interest, but I'm not being beaten to death, with a monthly, where it's changed
Yeah.
creators every year or so.
Right. Well, I'm definitely going to go back and check out the quarterlies
Yeah.
because that speaks to my sensibility of just
Mhm.
like a nice digestible story that
Right.
I can read and enjoy and move forward.
Yeah, because I wasn't even sure how long. A lot of times, and this is my criticism of Previews magazine,
Mm-hmm.
they don't tell you how many issues anything is anymore.
Yeah.
Mostly because I think I've decided that the comic book companies don't know how many issues something is. So they launch it as an ongoing,
Yeah.
and then suddenly it was a 5 issue miniseries because it didn't do well.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed that quite a bit. What started as ongoing suddenly ends at 5 issues.
Kind of like back in the 90s when they did the whole Heroes Reborn or whatever it
Mhm.
was, and then that tanked because it was god awful. And then
Yes.
Marvel went, that was just like a mini series,
Right,
folks. This
right.
is the real
Yes.
thing. And we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Pull this finger.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes. Just
And
kidding.
yeah,
Yeah,
just
just
kidding.
kidding.
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, I was really pleased that this went on for 15 issues.
Hmm.
And so, and it definitely can continue. If there and be new creators can be brought in,
Mhm.
the way that they've set up what the Death Dealer is, it can definitely continue in other forms. Which, and again, maybe I'll bring back I am buying the future one, and so I'll be curious to see what they do with Death Dealer in the future.
What I'd like to see them do, and maybe we'll close out with this. What I'd like to see them do is if this stuff works for them, I would love to see the Carl Edward Wagner Kane books,
Mm.
which all had these great Frazetta covers, which I noticed were missing from a lot of the books. I'm like, do they,
They may not have the
maybe
rights
like,
to.
I think it's Bane. Does
Mhm.
Bane still own the rights to be able to do that? But a Kane series would
Mhm.
be amazing to see.
That would be great.
All right. Well, if you
Okay.
want to see us go over some more of these, let us know in the comments. Once again, we were on hiatus for a little while because a lot of stuff had happened. But I'm Paul,
I'm Mark.
I might.
and we've got issues in comics.
And comics. I forgot.
All right.
I'm like Steve. I'm forgetting.
Well, here,
Yeah, leave that there.
and
Yeah.
then oh,
Is that the one we want? Is the
sure.
intro, or do you want?
No, and then
Okay.
go and comics.
Yes, I will. Oh, we're gonna end just
No.
and comics
All right, do it one more time.
and comics.
All right. All right.
That's right. I forgot you can edit.
Yeah, I'm an editing machine.